Good day. Today we are talking with Mrs. Paultina Anderson, who is a breastfeeding peer counselor. And she is also the author of a recently published work, a practical handbook for breastfeeding moms. Thanks for coming, Mrs. Anderson.
And thank you very much, Ms. Kabuni, for inviting me here to speak with you.
Before we get into the work that you did in terms of publishing this book, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, where have you worked? How long have you worked? What is your experience?
Yes. I am practically now a lactation consultant, a breastfeeding peer counselor for the past 15 years or so. But my work experience takes me back to the early 70s when I went to England to do nursing and midwifery. Then I returned to Trinidad and began to work in the Port of Spain General Hospital up to 1999. And then I went back to England to work there. And I came back in 2004 and I settled in Mount Hope Hospital. And there's where I became involved in breastfeeding. I was trained in breastfeeding management and the techniques and counseling.
When you worked at Port of Spain Hospital, for example, you weren't involved in training people?
No, not
Oh,
at
I
all.
see.
Not at all.
And what was your background then?
Just midwifery. I did
Okay.
mostly in midwifery. I worked in general nursing at Port of Spain just for about 2 or 3 years. But the vast majority is in midwifery.
Okay. And so around what time did you start zeroing in on breastfeeding techniques?
Well, in 2006, when I became the coordinator for the Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative, this was a drive, a strategy that all the hospitals in Trinidad were supposed to become baby friendly, so that we had to teach the mothers and the nurses about the counseling and the techniques and skills of breastfeeding. And then I formed a group called a breastfeeding support group. The name of the group is Breast Milk, the official first food, or BETA for short. Because when I worked as the coordinator, I was mandated to sort of get Mount Hope and the nurses very attuned to baby-friendly breastfeeding, breast milk, and so on. Let them realize the importance of it.
So coming now to what led you to write this book, what led you to the decision that you needed to write this book?
Well, I continued in that vein of breastfeeding, and I got very, very much interested in the components and constitutions of breast milk. And then I used to do Lama's class. Yes, I did.
What's Lama's class?
Lama's class is childbirth classes, where you teach childbirth exercises, making labor easier. And these classes would entail not only the mother, but the father as well, or sometimes you have the grandmother, the expected grandmother as well. So I used to do those classes and these are not exercises alone, but we educate them about what to do when you have your baby, how to manage, how to cope with the addition to your family, and all about breast milk. And surprisingly enough, some of these mothers followed me after they had their babies.
So you weren't satisfied with just being part of those, running those classes. I want to see why it is that you got into the need to write this book.
Right. So a lot of mothers were phoning me, were coming to me and crying, and they seemed so frustrated and so much in distress. I don't know what to do. I know breastfeeding is good, but the baby is giving some trouble. And even up to this present time, I still get phone calls from mothers and so on because I still have the support group. And having seen them, and I'm in pain, and they would tell me, oh gosh, nurse, I'm in pain up here, down there, everywhere in pain. I don't have the patience, and nobody seems to be taking the time to explain to me because breast milk and breastfeeding on the whole takes a lot of time to explain to
But
someone.
some will say that it's supposed to be a natural activity.
Right, yes.
You know, from time immemorial,
That's right.
women have been giving birth, and breast milk, producing breast milk is a natural part of that, and therefore breastfeeding your baby is a natural part of that. Was there any time when it was necessary to do the teaching that you are talking about now? I
Yeah.
mean, in the earlier times?
No, the time you are talking about is probably 30 years ago, so on. Very long ago, it was, yes, you said it's a natural process, and it's supposed to be easy. But what is happening these days is that more than 70% of the workforce are women, and they are going to go back out to work. The other thing, patience, persistence. Many mothers give up very easily because an alternative, a substitute is already out there. The other thing is long ago, mothers used to stay in hospitals for about 5, sometimes 7 days. So within that time, they were taught how to breastfeed. Everything was established. Breast milk had come in. They were well comfortable with bathing and the rest of the thing. They were well comfortable with the
How long
newborn.
do mothers stay now?
Nowadays, they stay 1 day, 24 hours. That is, if everything is all right with the baby, and if everything is all right with the mother, they have their babies today and they would go home tomorrow. If they have a cesarean section where you cut and take the baby, they would probably stay about 3 days, push it by 4 days. But it's usually the norm is 1
24
day.
hours.
Yes, 1 day.
Now, are you targeting any particular group of women?
Yes, I am. I'm targeting the pregnant woman. Why? Because most of the time, the decision, I'm going to have my baby, yes, but the decision to breastfeed or not is usually made in the antenatal or the prenatal period. So I target pregnant women. Then you have mothers who probably is a third baby, their fourth baby, and they never breastfeed the previous babies. Maybe they have had not so good experiences and things like that, and they want to try with this baby, and they need some help. Also, we have families, an early postpartum period, and
What is postpartum?
that is the period immediately following, like the week before, the week after childbirth. So early you have your baby today, the whole week you will be wondering what to do and so on. So when you send them home the day after, it's a positive and negative there. It's positive, yes, for the birthing institutions because you have more bed space, but the problem is created in the community after discharge, when she gets home, when the full breast milk comes in, when her breast starts to swell, and when she starts getting sore nipples. This is where she starts to cry and get very desperate.
So from your point of view, you prefer dealing with mothers during the pregnancy stage or in the postpartum, or
Yes, there isn't any I all over. Yes,
okay.
yes,
Any
because yes.
particular age of woman?
Um, Not really, I would say. I wouldn't say the age because you, as I said before, you get people with third baby, 38 years old, get the young people, 14, 15 years old, 18 years old, and so on, 45 years old, same problems, same
Right, so
challenges.
same challenges.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you found out these problems about people feeling women feeling frustrated, and the need to teach them and so on, as part of your job experience
That's right, yes.
in the hospitals. Did you draw any experiences from other people, who was saying that, besides, of course, your colleagues, on the job, but are you aware of other people making those same remarks about problems with breastfeeding
Yes.
and new mothers?
Yes, yes, of course, because after discharge, they call, they come, you meet them in the shops, you meet them in churches. In the church, you go to church, no, I can't breastfeed. Sometimes randomly, you're going to meet somebody in a grocery. I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. No, she isn't breastfeeding, it's too hard, it's too, and they just, yes, that's it. It's too hard, and that's it.
So therefore, besides the contact that you made in the hospitals,
Yes.
you also make contact with people
Exactly.
all over the place in
All
your
over.
churches,
That's
people who meet you, or maybe somebody who put them on to you or something like that.
exactly that. People who put them on to me randomly, just walking, friends may come and visit, or we may go and visit, and this one may have a baby, and they would hear about breastfeeding peer counselor. Oh, so I had my baby, so, and they're waiting for, they're eager to help, to get the help, because some of them do not know that help is available. And I remember once, about 2 years, not so long, there was International Women's Day in Arima, and we were there, and we had a booth, and we were talking about breastfeeding. And a lady, a young woman, about late 20s, came and said, where were you when I had my baby 2 years ago? Where were you? Where were you all when I had my baby? So people are there, and they just don't know that help is available.
Before I get on to the last question here, if this is a normal issue with new mothers and so on, is there something within the hospital to inform
Yeah, oh
people of
yes.
groups like yours?
Oh yes, there are. For instance, there is another breastfeeding support group. I think San Fernando Hospital has nurses that are put aside to do that job, and Port of Spain, but they are few and far between. And besides that, we have leaflets, little flyers that we can give the mothers, the families to help them. But it's so scarce that if the vast majority of patients sort of fell through.
They fall
Sometimes,
through the cracks.
that's right. And sometimes, to go a bit further, the support group, sometimes they have members who will actually volunteer and go to the hospital on certain days and talk with the patients. So, for instance, if I have, let's say, 2 peer counselors going today, um, which is Tuesday, what happens on Wednesday and Thursday?
And new babies are being born.
Exactly. Somebody may go on Friday, but what happens over the weekend? You see? And the time you get to them by Monday, it's too late because their nipples are already sore. You see? Today's Tuesday, I see someone, now I spend a half an hour with that person, or maybe more. Breastfeeding takes, education takes time. And by this afternoon, 6 o'clock, she's in pain, or she doesn't know what to do, because newborn babies, that's the behavior of newborn babies. They sort of, sometimes they would latch on properly, sometimes they wouldn't, sometimes the mothers wouldn't have patience, they may want to rest, they may be in pain. And the other thing is, it takes a very sensitive person, a person who's sensitive to the needs of that mother and baby.
Could I just, the last question, you have written this book, A Practical Handbook for Breastfeeding Moms. What do you see as the benefits of putting this book out there in the public domain?
Right. Number one, as I said just now, you have your baby, you go home tomorrow. Someone breastfeeding peer counselor meets you at your bedside and they will talk to you. They may even go further and take your contact number so you can correspond. But having the book on hand, that mother is tempted at times to go through that book. If not the mother, the baby's father. If not the baby's father, sometimes you may even get the grandmother going through the book. Not only that, number two, the book is a constant help. So when the mother now is ready to go back to work after maternity leave, the 3 months maternity leave, she will say, here, look, the book has about expressing breast milk and what I should wear to go back to work. Let me see if I can guess anything, grasp anything from this book. How do I store this milk? How do I reheat it? What do I do? How, you know, and sometimes they want to, oh, I haven't eaten for the day. And I only drank a sweet drink this morning. It's now 5 o'clock. My baby will get gas. I have nothing. I can't feed my baby.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
So you see the benefits of having a permanent resource.
That's a constant, yes.
A constant
A
resource.
something that
like
you could read.
refer to
Yes.
from time to time.
Yes, you could read today and you will forget it. These mothers will forget because around that time, the hormones are still all over the place in your body. So they really need to read and reread. That is why a breastfeeding peer counsel may come to you today. Tomorrow, it's out. It's out. They will forget.
Hence the need for the book.
Yes, so we do
Thank you very
book.
much for this introduction. It was very enlightening to me. And we will continue with other issues related to the actual development of the book.
Thank you
so
very
thanks
much.
a lot.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Kabuni.